I was shocked. And I do a lot of obviously research on the immigration stats and what's happening with, because there's the immigration umbrella, and so many people don't realize that in there we have permanent residents, temporary foreign workers, temporary residents, those who are seeking refugee status or refugee claimants. And so under the immigration umbrella are all these subcategories. And the refugee claimants get what's called, they have essentially free health benefits. And the government went back and forth for a while on whether or not they should call it free because they didn't want to be seen as promoting it. But in fact, it's a program that's paid by taxpayers and is free to anyone who's claiming refugee status in the country. And so this has been a hot topic in the House of Commons, is like, how much are we actually funding into this program when we know that refugee claimants have skyrocketed in recent years? And many of them, sadly, are fraudulent because Canada doesn't really have any safeguards in place to prevent that from happening. And so this has been put on full display yesterday. The president of the Canadian Border Service Agency Union reveals just how little oversight there is on this program. Listen to this.
When it was done there, that's changed to a system that's called One Touch. So essentially, we get tombstone data, we do some biometrics, and the claimant is then allowed into the country to complete their security screening and such on their own through the One Touch system. They have, I believe it's 45 days to submit that, meaning, in essence, to speed things up, because we are short-staffed, we're allowing people into the country without first doing that security screening.
Wow.
Okay, hold on a second here. So,
Yeah.
so you're saying that a refugee claimant coming to Canada goes to a machine and says, I want to be a refugee in Canada, hits a button, and they're in the country? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's not a machine, it's an application. So the One Touch system, they're given instructions on how to use that. That connects directly with IRCC, and they're given that documentation to complete on their own once they're in the country. We're not doing that.
So basically, they take out their phone, theoretically, and they tap it a few times, and they are now in the country as a refugee accepted by our country.
Yes, we get some basic data from them, and again, we do the biometrics. Beyond that, they're doing that on their own, yes.
So no
This is where it
human
gets
interaction.
crazy.
Your members do not ask any questions, don't confirm anything. It's a free-for-all into the country that way?
Very little. I don't know if I'd use the term free-for-all, but for the most part, it's self-declaration on the claimant's part, yes.
Newsflash.
And so from your perspective and your members' perspective, this is not a good thing?
This is a terrible thing. It's during the interview, and again, I spoke to it in my opening statement about human interaction. That's where we ask follow-up questions. That's where we establish whether there's coaching, whether it's a legitimate claim. That's how those files are built so they can be dealt with properly. Later, that's where we gain that intelligence, and that's currently been lost, not to mention that about 10% never complete the forms through One Touch. So you figure with about 100,000 claimants a year, that's about 10,000 people who are allowed into Canada who they disappear. Then it's our inland officers then have to find them and remove them. So you're adding additional burdens down the road.
So 10,000 potential false claimants coming into that system that have to be removed. Wow.
Every year.
That's not even just the false ones. That's just the ones that don't do it.
That don't do anything. Yeah, they just come in and they're like, okay, I'm a refugee now, give me all the free things.
Oh my gosh.
And so on that same vein, this wasn't in the schedule, but I had watched it last night and I thought this is shocking. So newly elected MP Matt Strauss, he was asking similar questions of the immigration minister, Alina Diab, who's I think like the 7th minister in 7 years to handle such a crucial high profile portfolio. Like the turnover of immigration ministers and health ministers is astronomical when these are such massive portfolios. But this is a almost 3-minute clip, so it is lengthy, but I think it's really important because she says some absolutely shocking things about that interim health benefit that's offered to refugee claimants. And again, all of this just revalidates, and we were talking about it on Tuesday on the stream, how the CBSA, the Canadian Border Services Agency, loses or has lost roughly 500,000 people who are due for deportation, and they just don't know where they ended up. They're just gone. 500,000 people who should have left this country are just lost, missing in action. So I just wanted to share this clip too on this same vein, just how absolute, like just complete ineptitude by immigration ministers and their staff.
Mr. Diab, I had to check. I mean, we all know you as the Minister of Immigration, but you are the Minister of Refugees as well. And so I guess I was dumbfounded when you said that you don't know what % of refugee claims are ultimately accepted in the last round.
I do not. I can go on the website and check, and I'm sure
maybe you should.
So can we.
We can definitely follow up
Thank
with
you.
you.
Okay, I mean, that was 20 minutes ago. When somebody's refugee claim is denied, do they continue to receive benefits from IFHP?
No, when it's denied, it follows through the process. Once the process is concluded, it ends.
The one click.
Minister, I have another question about the IFHP, and it's really important
That's
for the
the interim
Canadians
federal
following
health
along
program.
to understand. So this program, the $900 million program, includes pharmaceuticals and vision care and mental health counseling and assistive devices and physiotherapy and occupational speech therapy and all sorts of things that seniors in Kitchener do not get unless they have supplemental
Bingo.
health coverage. I asked you, if somebody's refugee claim is denied, do they continue to get all of this coverage? And you said no. Here I have your website. It says, as a refugee claimant, you'll get IFHP coverage if your claim for refugee protection has been rejected by the IRB. So did you lie to the committee, or is your website lying?
Wow.
Excuse me?
I said, did you lie to the committee, or is your website lying?
Be careful with language, Mr. Strzok.
Oh yeah,
Did
they're
you
totally
mislead the committee,
policing,
or
of
is
course.
the website misleading?
Not
Oh,
in the
God.
job of doing that. Thank you very much. It's not something that is in my dictionary either.
What is your
So
job then?
What I said is the interim federal health program provides temporary health care coverage to address urgent and essential medical needs for refugees and asylum claimants while they wait to become eligible for provincial and territorial health insurance plans. And
And then I asked, if your refugee claim is denied, do you continue to receive coverage? And here your website says you continue to receive coverage if your claim is denied, if your refugee claim is denied by IRB.
I said they continue to receive claims until all the refugee process is concluded.
So what part of the process comes after the claim being denied by IRB?
Well, again, it's the IRB that takes care of that. There is a process and there is a legal process.
So I'm to understand that you, as the minister who looks after this interim federal health program, who is the Minister of Refugees, doesn't know what part of the process comes after the IRB denying your refugee claim?
Yeah, well, again, if I put the chapeau on my hat when I was a lawyer, people can appeal, or there could be other considerations. So again, this is not
Thank you. I'd like to yield my time over to to Dan Mazur.
There, like that just highlights it full on showcases
Lord
the
help.
absolute hellscape that is the Canadian government. That is it right there on full display.
This is the same minister who, when asked about, how healthcare is going, when we're so strapped for healthcare, how are we going to help all these people bringing in? And she said this isn't a question for her ministry. And if you notice, she had to keep reading just to explain what her ministry does. She had to keep going down. She doesn't even know what her ministry is supposed to do. It is so concerning. And I just want to go back to that first video too, because it is so shocking in one click that they can get here. I had no clue that was happening. I know most of us had no clue. How does it get to that point? That should not even be possible for us to do. That should be like illegal for us to do. There should be some very minimum basic checks and balances that are required before you come into this country. So who the heck has come into this country?
Yeah, it's literally, they say, oh, we won't use the word free for all, but actually, if you just look at those two clips, the current state of affairs, it is a free for all. And you can have your refugee claim denied and still get all these free, right? They're free because these people don't come into the country as tax-paying citizens. They've never paid taxes here before. And not to downplay the very serious aspect of being a refugee claimant. There are legitimate refugees with legitimate claims, but that is being disavowed and disavowed by all of these fraudulent ones, that this influx, because they've realized, hey, Canada has this willy-nilly free-for-all system, and we are going to exploit it for our own benefit. I mean, that's what people for millennia have done and are doing now, and the Liberals are just letting it go by under their noses. If you have your refugee claim denied, that's like an immediate, okay, we need to immediately start monitoring you. If you're going to appeal or whatever, there should be a process in place for that puts some serious stipulations on your application, including that you are no longer eligible to receive the full suite of benefits that a refugee claim or claimant who is going through the process of being approved would have. So this is just absolutely crazy. And as Matt Strauss, Dr. Strauss, he is a physician, points out, his constituents don't have access to those kinds of benefits unless they have some sort of like special or extra coverage.
Yeah, he mentioned
that is insane.
Our seniors, our veterans. If your child has ADD and needs some of those things, you don't get those things. You have to have special coverage, more money. And not to mention, we have increased hundreds of thousands of jobs in the federal public servant sector. So why are they not going to these very important areas to smooth out whatever is going on in this system?